All right, welcome back. Now, with us today to decode the Web3 funding paradox is someone deeply immersed in blockchain innovation and strategy. Roommate Dominic is a certified blockchain architect and AI metaverse expert, helping shape how frontier technologies are applied in real-world African contexts. Roommate, it's a pleasure to have you on Business Insights. Thanks for joining us.
And by extension, I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right, let us start with the main crux of the issue. Let's talk about the paradox, which is the main issue of discussion. Why do you think Nigerians or Nigeria leads in crypto adoption, yet we are lagging in Web3 funding?
Nigeria currently has a yearly transaction volume of over $56 billion in cryptocurrency transaction on an annual basis. We have over 33 million people using cryptocurrency in this region. The VC funding, as we have seen, has dropped over the last 1 to 2 years by about $2 to $5 million because we are seeing a rise in investors' uncertainty. One of the major reasons why investors have been uncertain is the lack of regulatory clarity that has also been in the crypto space. Also following what happened with the Binance case, where some of their officials were arrested for almost 6 to 8 months without a headway of how that situation was going to come to a fruition. And then most investors, their confidence has also gone down because while some money have come in, they've not been able to recoup the type of return on investment they've wanted to get in Web3. So that has truly seen the decline in Web3 funding.
Do you think the global investors are getting wrong about Nigeria's Web3 ecosystem?
You said?
What do you think global investors are getting wrong about our Web3 ecosystem?
They are not getting the first-hand information about the Nigerian Web3 ecosystem. For example, you see, most times when players in this niche come into a new region, they fail to do one thing: work with the local players, especially in that region, to be able to understand the policies, the communities, the markets, and how best to deploy, create awareness, and increase distribution of their products and services. And this has been the difference, especially when Binance came into the country. I understand that when they came into the country, they were working with most of the community KOLs. They reached out to associations like the CBAN Association. They tried to work with established players that were already in the industry. However, if you flip this script, it is not the same for most other people, and that has seen that those other ones, they get hurt not following the same blueprint.
Okay, now projects like Zone have attracted funding due to their infrastructure focus. What do you think B2C focused Web3, that's in business to on consumers focused Web3 startups can learn from that?
But the reality is, we have, with that type of investment coming in, especially about $8.5 million from the Zone project, it's a key signal that investors, they love Web3 projects. That's one thing that we should take home, that the Web3 project is truly solving big problems in Africa, because $8.5 million is not small money for us to just put into a project like that if you have not tested that the payment processing solution that Zone is promising for 50 million users is going to truly become a reality. And it also points to the fact that we need to adopt real infrastructure. The Web3 is focused on a couple of things like NFTs, DeFi, but we've seen quite a lot of projects coming on Web3 that are now focused on real-world assets, and real users are coming in to increase the real traction of those platforms, and that is one reason why Zone has thrived.
Okay, now, in your opinion, with stablecoins dominating transactions, how can startups build scalable and long-term products on that particular trend?
Well, startups can actually build payment for everyday use. For example, if you think of applications that work with USDT, especially stable currencies, you see that most of the businesses, they want to be able to remit currencies outside the country. And one of the biggest problems we have in Nigeria is the bottleneck of payment and remittance, especially when you want to do that in foreign currencies. You might not be able to get enough quantity of dollar that you want to use for your payment this morning if you possibly go to the banks. But you can use digital currencies, stable currencies, to be able to augment for that gap in the volume you are looking for. So this is one opportunity that the firms and companies can capitalize on to truly grow the ecosystem.
Let's talk about regulations and reforms. What maybe one or two reforms you think will most benefit local Web3 startups right now?
Reforms that will benefit Web3 startups right now would include things like, one, lowering the entry barrier for the virtual asset providers. You know, about 1 year ago, the Nigerian community, the SEC community launched the ARI program, the Accelerated Regulatory Program for the virtual asset providers. However, most people were not aware when that program was launched. That program actually had a low entry barrier for most of the Web3 companies, because you could just apply with 200,000 on the RSEC website and be able to get your number that you can use to process your license, like what Woes have and what Busha has. But that platform is currently closed now, and that low entry barrier is no longer available for a lot of virtual asset providers, and we do not know when such a platform will be open again for more people to quickly be able to get more licensing. Because when they get more licensing, right, that means that the investors' confidence would now increase to truly want to invest more in these different companies. And then I will also see that the infrastructure here, especially with Web3, is going up, and then more people are being employed in the Web3 ecospace that will truly now be boosting the GDP of the country. So we can try to lower that entry barrier and also provide a very strong clarity that brings trust for our investors.
Let's talk about maybe charity beginning at home or something, because there's this perception, there's this belief that Nigerian Web3 startups must go offshore to thrive. Is that true, or can success happen here at home?
Web3 startups do not need a specific location to thrive. Your location, like my pastor always says, is not the problem. You can thrive anywhere you are. However, there is always the disparity of when these companies are in a particular region, maybe a free trade zone, they might pay lower taxes. One of the major problems that companies want to avoid is to pay high level of taxes, because every business wants to use the lowest cost to generate the highest revenue. So they want to be able to reduce their expenses. And being in a region like the Lekki Free Trade Zone, ideally, if a Web3 company is there, should maybe exempt them from the 10% tax that they are supposed to pay to the Nigerian government on a yearly basis. So that could be a reason why some people are opting for it. However, a lot of Web3 companies, like I made mention of first, they work using the remote type of system and structure. And because they work using the remote type of system and structure, a lot of them are even working from companies like Dubai, from companies like Salvador, Estonia, these companies that they don't really need to pay high level of tax and refunds from those type of countries. So Web3, the question of offshore would not be the most bottling, stifling trap for Web3 companies, because we can truly scale beyond that, given the type of technology we work with.
All right, now, so how important are communities like the Web3 Bridge and Super Team NG to talent and startup survival in this space?
The reality is that they are the heartbeat of this space. And Web3 and super team are why 4% of the global new Web3 developers are currently from Nigeria. There was a statistic recently that Web3 developers around the globe, imagine 100% of them, 4% of those guys are from Nigeria.
Okay.
And half of those people joined last year alone. So these companies are training our youth, just like we also have with Vorem, also training on the educational side. We train the youth. We are ensuring that they learn how to use over 45% of stable currencies in their transaction instead of using volatile assets that will quickly see the value of their portfolio go down. And without them and companies like Vorem that are doing this type of things, the talent that we're building, the solutions that we're building, they would have not been at the level that they are currently at in this country.
Okay, now I'm a bit concerned. Now that big players like MasterCard are entering the stablecoin space, is there still room for small startups to innovate?
Yes, there is room for small startups to innovate. A wise man once said that you don't start a business unless you find a gap in the market. And let's imagine places like Oshodi, the rural environment, rural farmers. Most of the time, big players can't touch some of those local hustle. So when you find a gap in the market, you find your lane, you can go to those gaps and solve real problems, and you will thrive. And when small startups focus on solving those gaps, they will just see themselves becoming the next big thing that will be rivaling these bigger players in the ecosystem.
Okay, now I have one question for you just by the side before we just finalize on this particular discourse. Now, it is in the news that the NCC is set to revise the 22-year-old telecoms law to address AI, 5G, and of course cybersecurity. What are your thoughts, really, Rume?
I read that news and I was extremely excited. Recently we've had the tax reform. We've also had the Data Protection Act review. We've also had the social media bill passed. We've had the national blockchain policy and all that. So this is a step in the right direction to see that the provisions for advanced technologies, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, 5G, Internet of Things, blockchain will be catered for, because that is the framework and the idea that they have to truly see that they are reforming that 2023 Act, because those things were not catered for as of then. But now with this reformation, it is going to be catered for, and then we will have better clarity, more regulations, and investor confidence in these sectors as well.
Okay, still on that, now, in your opinion, how do you think this new legal framework will actually help and benefit or address the rise of AI in telecoms, services?
Sorry, you said what?
I said, with this new legal framework, how do you think it can actually impact, the rise of AI in telecom services?
This legal framework will truly impact artificial intelligence because, about 1 year ago, we saw the minister, Tijani Bosun, raise over $140 million to be able to invest into artificial intelligence startup, to also be able to put into artificial intelligence projects here in this country. And with such a regulation, you just find out that it has made things to be way much more easier, more transparent, and much more structured for that type of program that was even already launched. It now provides a long-term vision for the country to be able to see that in the next 2-3 years, is there a framework, is there a blueprint we are going to follow? And the answer to that is yes.
Okay, in all of this, now cybersecurity also comes to mind. Cybersecurity threats are evolving rapidly. So how do you really think that this legislation will help keep up without stifling innovation?
The exciting part of this particular act review is that cybersecurity was involved, or cybersecurity is also a part of the review process that's being touched. And we cannot underplay the importance of security in the life or environment of any nation. You know, right now, if there's no peace, we will not be able to have this kind of communication to educate others. So same thing, the war of the 21st century are wars that are not just fought on land. We have even the social media wars, and a lot of smart founders, smart communities, they're even building social media army to combat as normal as social media wars. So cybersecurity being included in this thought process, that we are now having good regulatory framework, good legal processes for it. We'll see that our developers, our white hackers, our black hackers, they now have a place and a community where they can truly contribute their skill sets in a productive way and become national patriots.
All right, now, if you had one final message for Nigeria's regulators, what would that be?
A final message for Nigerian regulators is this: you have truly given us the blueprint to win big, and together we take Nigeria from the traditional infrastructure system that we have now, with your blueprint, to the moon that you want us to go, especially in technological advancement and infrastructure.
All right. Well, as we have seen today, the promise of Web3 in Nigeria is real, but unlocking its full potential will take more than users. It will require funding, regulatory clarity, and above all, confidence in local innovation. We must say a very big thank you to you, Rune Dominic, for your sharp insights, and thanks for joining us.
I'm extremely grateful, my very good friend.
All right, you can also catch this episode again on our YouTube channel and follow the conversation across all our social media platforms. Until next time, I am Justin Akadonye. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay in business. Bye for now.